Welcome to the Forge, my wanton wildlings. I'm your creepsmith, and I hope you like my work. Once again, welcome wildlings. Human history is a story of rebellion. The very idea of being controlled, manipulated, or oppressed is infuriatingly aberrant to us. How much more terrible, then, when we encounter something that can reach all the way down to our animal base and manipulate even that. Oh, and just as a warning, this one's pretty explicit, so don't listen to it at work or school, and try and keep it away from the kiddos. Tonight's reprehensible reading, the Flesh Interface series, posts 76 through 80. By 9Mother9Horse9Eyes9. 76th post. Illicit Whispers. Yerk. This naked old lady hiding in the bushes looks like the beginning of a storyline I don't want to go down. I really wish that I had looked at the summary closer. Who knew something called 80s Turbo Ascension would have artisanal porn in it? I consider saying my safe word to stop the narrative, but I don't feel like going through the loading process again. I should have loaded up my feed splits, but I rushed through the setup. The old lady's bony arm snakes out of the bush and she grabs my ankle. Oh, certainly not. I yank my leg away and curse at her. Corey is looking at her with that same confused animation that he used a moment ago. Is he already using the same animation? Well, that's kinda low def. The crazy old lady comes stumbling out of the bush, her saggy old boobs flopping around. Yow, what kind of narrative is this? I pick up a nearby potted plant and smash it on her head. It breaks apart pretty nice, full of high-def dirt. The lady falls on the ground and starts moaning. I back away and watch how the scene develops between Corey and her. It looks like her leg isn't quite attached to the rest of her. You can see the meat inside her hip. Really low def. Corey just stands there, cycling through different animations. He turns to me and shrugs and says, "Hey babe, that's life." I stare at him. Is this how the storyline is supposed to go? He runs his hand through his hair and says, "Cute skirt." What the hell? This narrative is bugged up. Let's go, I say, going to Corey's car and opening the door. It's an old hand drive with a fixed wheel. You want me to drive? Corey asks, coming over. Yeah, maybe you better. A minute later, we're cruising down the freeway listening to some oldie about a girl named Jessie. The scenery looks cool with the blue freeway lights passing by and an old-fashioned neon metro in the background. Corey's running through his backstory, talking about that Ferrari or whatever. I can't ignore the fact that I already feel a little bored. I'm just 10 minutes into my first direct sense feed narrative and I'm already bored. Was the surgery really worth all that money? I don't even want to think about what it cost. I slip my hand into my skirt again and touch my pussy. It really feels nice. Everything is super sharp. I start to think about fucking Corey again. But I can't just go back to feed fucking all the time every day. Why am I always bored with narratives after 10 minutes? Why am I bored with everything after 10 minutes? We pull up in front of Club Heatwave, a big, glittering building with a neon sun shining above it. A line of gleaming black limos snakes through a colorful crowd out front. We park in the player spot across the street and head to the grand entrance. Corey's leading me by the hand. Music thumps from within. People are waiting in line, but Corey says something to the bouncer and we slip past. The entrance hall is all mirrors and neon. I can feel the beat of the music passing through my entire body. Now that's cool. The singer tells me to get out of his dreams and into his car. The inside is filled with shadowy bodies dancing through the strobe lights and lasers and artificial fog. Cheesy, but it's kind of fun. It even has that fake fog smell. Want to get some practice in? Corey asks, giving my bum a little squeeze. Oh, this one is naughty. We head out onto the dance floor and start to cut it up. Wow, Corey's dancing is terrible. It looks like a motion glitch. I guess they had to give him some old-timey moves, but did they have to make it this bad? This is kind of ruining the storyline. I look around and across the dance floor, and I see a tall man in a black suit with black hair standing perfectly still among the dancing crowd. He's watching me with dark eyes. There's a sort of glow around him, so I can tell that he's going to be part of a storyline. I lean over to Corey and ask, "Who's that?" Corey stares at the man for a moment, then runs his hand through his hair and says, "Cute skirt." What the fuck, Corey? The man crosses the dance floor, coming toward me. The other dancers don't move out of the way, and he passes right through some of them without breaking his stride. That is some programming. Now he stands in front of me, looking down at me with his gleaming black eyes. Oh wow. What an incredible render this guy is. I mean, this is outright art. Like Rembrandt level. Say what you will about the game's production. They really know how to build hot guys. The man has the face of a gorgeous, forlorn angel, just inhumanly beautiful. The skin is paper white, and underneath run thousands of tiny branching veins that seem to throb with his pulse. Such obsessive definition. His lips are perfectly soft and fleshy looking, like nothing I've ever seen in a feed before. I lean toward him for a kiss. A smell comes off of him, something that I can't quite place. Sweet and rich. And then we're kissing, and I can taste what I'm smelling. Sweet but metallic. Wow, this guy can kiss. I think this is what real kissing feels like. I pull my head back and touch his face. The flesh is really nice. I can see the dark blood throbbing in his neck veins, and then I notice Corey standing right there looking at us all confused. He looks like a cheap plastic doll compared to this new guy. "What gives?" Corey asks. "Fuck off," I say. Corey gets this really heartbroken look on his face and says, "Listen to me, Zhenjin Zbakin. You'll break my heart if you go with any other guy. You got that? You are the most special, most beautiful girl I've ever met." I can't really get into the speech because it's too early in the narrative for that kind of stuff. Plus, he pronounced my name wrong. The new guy reaches out and grabs a handful of Corey's face. Like, literally, he just sinks his fingers into the face and tears out a huge bloody hunk. Blood sprays everywhere. Holy shit. I guess this is a horror narrative. Is this guy like a vampire or something? Faceless Corey just keeps standing there, spurting blood out of his head hole. I push him away. The new guy squeezes the hunk of flesh like a sponge and lets the blood run down over my face, and then starts licking it. Yeep. This must be some kind of art porn sampler narrative. I've really gotta start reading those summaries. Like, crucial. But the new guy's tongue feels good on my face and neck. And I start licking him back, and we start kissing and undressing right there. My pussy is absolutely tingling, and I can feel my heart beating fast. I wonder what my real pussy and my real heart are doing while I'm lying there in the hygiene bed. Forget it. I need to fuck this guy. He strips off the black suit he's wearing to reveal a perfect body and a huge, beautiful cock. Oh, yes. This is gonna be good. He lifts me up with ease, and I grip his powerful, muscled arms as he slides his cock into me. Ah, heaven. I hold on to him, and I close my eyes, and I let him fuck me. My pussy feels super real. I can taste Corey's blood on my lips, and the man kisses and sucks my neck. I open my eyes and see that everybody in the club has stopped dancing. They're all standing still as the music plays in the strobe flashing darkness, watching this guy fuck me. God, this narrative really combines a lot of different kinks. Who wrote this shit? He lifts me up. Oh, sorry. Now I'm feeling like 1,000 different things in my pussy, most of them incredibly good, some of them new, some of them way beyond anything I felt offline. The man's eyes are on me and I'm mesmerized. The other people in the club are all slowly walking towards us, surrounding us. Pretty soon they're packed around us like the paparazzi in a fame simulation. Public fucking isn't really my fetish, but I don't want to have to stop everything and set up a new scene. Some of the people reach out and touch my tits and my hair and my face. And with this guy's cock in me, it all feels so good, so I don't stop. Despite the fact that I'm on the verge of coming, I can't help but notice that the light in the club has changed. It seems like it's coming from two specific angles, making everything seem doubled. I feel like I'm looking at the man's face from two angles, seeing 4 eyes. It's a weird effect, and I wonder if there's something wrong with my visual line. Next to me, a woman in a pink dress opens her mouth, and her jaw floats away from her face. Her head floats off her neck. And beside her, a man separates into a dozen slices. Oh, god damn it. This is definitely a fatal glitch, but I'm so close to coming, and it's gonna be fucking fabulous. I wonder if the narrative can just hang together for 10 more seconds before it crashes. All around us, the people begin to break apart, becoming floating parts. The weird lighting effect becomes more intense, and the man's face seems to be made of 4 sections, except each section is his entire face from a different angle, and they're all crossing each other, but they're staying in place at the same time, and 8 eyes are watching me. Oh, fuck, this is hurting my brain. Fuck, I can't take this. The narrative should have already crashed back into safety mode. So I say my safe word. Nothing happens. I feel my stomach drop in terror, except it drops at 4 different places all around the room. Oh god, am I stuck in a crashing narrative? They say that can fuck you up. I feel myself falling and expanding, and one of my hands feels like it's way off on the horizon. Another is 10 stories below me. Body parts are swirling around us, showing us all sides at once, and the man is staring down at me with his awful eyes. How are they so awful? His face is as giant as a mountain range, as the whole sky. I'm seeing too much. No. Above and beneath, everything has too many sides. Screaming. He has dozens of eyes, thousands of sides, thousands and millions of eyes, and oh god! 77th post. You need to learn statistical proxy fucking distillation tracing. AKA, if you don't know how to predict and manipulate reality, I can't teach you. When we got to the Clearview Hospital, it was like Karen said it would be. The emergency room was flooded with patients coming in from Atlanta, but the readjustment center was empty except for a lone staffer who was watching the lobby's wall set and praying. The set was showing footage of the black cloud over Atlanta, or maybe it was Denver, or Riyadh. 12 cities had gone up in the last hour. They weren't the largest or most powerful cities in the world. Hefei, Shengshao, Bengaluru. What was the pattern? What had Bengaluru ever done to anybody? Karen said there was no real pattern. This is Q's opening move, her entrance into the world. She won't destroy everything, but she will kill and kill until she thinks we are ready for her demands. I found a wheelchair by the readjustment center's entrance and wheeled Karen down to the EMRT rooms. Somewhere a hygiene bed's life alarm was ringing. I ignored it. My goal was to get Karen some muscle treatment. A single treatment probably wouldn't give her enough strength to stand on her own, but she could at least hold her head up and move her arms, and she might regain her voice and sight. In the treatment room, I filled a treatment tub with the minty-smelling conducting gel and washed Karen off and fit her with a breathing tube. These were normally tech duties, stuff I thought that I would never be doing again. Looking down at this little twig of a woman on the table, it occurred to me that all I had to do was tie off her breathing tube and that would be the end of her. I asked her the question that kept coming into my mind. How do I know for sure that you didn't blow up Atlanta yourself? How do I know you're not full of shit? My set was blank for a second before she answered. Well, how could I prove it? I tried to think of a way, some kind of test. I don't know, I said finally. You know much about statistical proxy distillation tracing? No. Then it would be hard to prove it to you. So, how do I know it wasn't you? You can't know. I need to know if I'm going to be helping you. Then learn about SPDT. I don't have time to learn about SP-fucking-DT. Then you can't know. You're just dealing with stuff that's too advanced. I walked away from the table and sat down in a nearby chair. I felt like I was cracking up. The urge to cry had come and passed every few minutes, and it came again. I don't know what to do. I told you we must get to upstate New York. There's a way to defeat Q. Maybe you're Q. Listen, before you put me in the gel, I want you to pull my jack battery. Cut it off. And that would prove you're not Q? Not really. I could have scripted everything. Oh. But it would mean I can't directly order nuclear strikes. Oh. Well, that's a relief, I said, rubbing my face and trying to blink away the fresh wave of tears. What's in upstate New York that's so important? There is a resource Q can't access, something she cannot defend against. What? Honestly, if you don't understand something simple like SPDT, you won't understand this. Fucking great, I said. We sat there in silence for a long moment, and finally another message showed up. I'm not Q. I spent my life fighting Q. I fought Q instead of having a life. We still have a chance to win. We must win. I sighed and stood up and walked over to her. Well, then let's get started. Good. I found the jack patch on the back of Karen's neck and squeezed at the tattooed points. Her battery capsule slowly slid out of her skin like a giant blackhead. I disconnected the wire. Now she was completely disconnected from infraspace. I picked up her body and gently lowered it into the conducting gel. It took a minute for her to sink to the bottom, for the gel to slowly slide over her face like a closing curtain. I dialed up 90 minutes of muscle treatment and 30 of eye treatment and started the tub up. Sat for a while, listening to the soft wobbling sounds of the gel shifting as Karen's muscles clenched and unclenched at a rapid-fire rate. This was the sort of spare moment where a person would stare at their set and look at game replays or something, but my set was just a long list of red interrupts telling me about how, well, everyone was dead. I realized that the hygiene bed's life alarm was still going off in some other room. Usually, when I heard that sound, I went racing out to find what was going on, but I just ignored this one. Well, the person was probably dead before we got here. What were the odds that they'd just gone into arrest when we walked in the door? And who gave a shit anyways when 100 million people had already died today? Still, there was an instinctive part of me that wanted to run toward the sound, that wanted to help. So I got up and I walked down the hall. The ringing got louder. At the end of the hallway, there was a small room with 4 hygiene beds that had been brought in for in-hospital emergency disconnection, a procedure that's usually reserved for really complex cases. The last bed was blinking red. I took a look at the readout, but it didn't show cardiac arrest. In fact, it was showing 260 BPM. Well, that must have been a malfunction. I looked at the chart. Shunshin Sobakin, 24 years old. Total connection duration, 47 minutes. Must have been a runtime crash. That's unlucky. I pressed the seal button and the bed lid opened up. When she came into view, I staggered back and shouted for help. 78th post. A man arrived to a duel with only a pen and a piece of paper. I sat Karen up in the electroconvulsive tub and wiped the warm gel from her face and detached the breathing tube. Her head rolled back, her face glistening with the glare of the LED. I could see the shape of the skull clearly through her wet skin. Slowly, she pulled her head upright, blinking the goo from her eyelashes. Hi. Hello. Can you hear this? Yeah, I can hear you, I said. Wow. Okay. It worked. Good. She said. Her voice was completely flat and surprisingly deep for someone so scrawny. I am here, she said, baring her teeth in what might have been a smile. Can you see anything? I asked. She opened her eyes wider and moved them around. Yes, persistent shapes, she said, pronouncing the word persistent like a child. Can you see how many fingers that I'm holding up? No. Try squinting. Oh, right. That changes things. 2? She was right, except she was looking at a completely different direction from my hand. Great, I said. Slowly her knobby knees emerged from the gel and she grasped them with her hands. This was a good sign for somebody in her state. It also showed that she knew some of the standard tests for emergence. We went through a few more of them and found that the treatment had worked well. She might even be able to walk soon. I got her out of the tub and washed her off and put her into some scrubs. She managed to sit upright on the table without leaning on anything, her bony arms set stiffly at her sides. Can I ask you a question? I asked. Sure, she said in her deep, childish monotone. What is Q? You want the whole story? Yeah. She took a deep breath. Okay, so approximately 50,000 years ago, she told me the whole story of Q, as she knew it. From the beginning in prehistory, when the hyperspace code was inserted into the human genome, and she went all the way to right now and the so-called plague of the flesh. Her description of the plague explained what had happened to poor Shinshin in her hygiene bed. It also explained the red butterfly thing that I found in the other hygiene bed. If you're hearing this, I guess you have access to her story as well. Hopefully she wrote down the whole history of Q, because honestly, I didn't understand it at all, and I couldn't do it justice. If I had heard it on any other day than the day Atlanta was destroyed, I wouldn't have believed any of it. As it was, I took it all in a calm, detached way, as if I was just listening to any other delusional. I guess you'll be hearing her story before any of this even happens, so you'll be inclined to believe it even less. So at this point, I asked her how she knew so much about Q, like what its plans were and all of that. She said that this Q had recently stopped hiding anything from her and the other bred soldiers. It was fully confident in its ability to win against them in any scenario. It no longer felt the need for secrecy. I asked her why it had tried to kill her, and she said that it hadn't. It was planning to destroy Atlanta anyway. She had arranged for the assassin herself, an improvisation to get her out of the city more quickly. I asked her if her ability to see all of those extra dimensions allowed her to see into the future. She told me that she could only see extra dimensions in the feed realm. It allowed her to fight against Q more effectively because she can process information on a different level than any other person. She explained, when you take a look at a digital picture, you can process a huge matrix of color values all at once. If you tried to process the same picture by looking at a list of color codes for each pixel, like R101, G254, B17, it would take forever and be incomprehensible. For certain problems, I have the same advantage over you that you have over a guy reading a list of color codes on a ticker. I can see many things all at once, but I can only see extra dimensions in the feed realm. Here, outside of the realm, there seem to be only 3 dimensions plus 1 timeline. I can't see beyond that, but I can imagine beyond it. So you can't see the future? No, I can only imagine the future. I can imagine a lot of futures. Then why did you hire an assassin for yourself? I mean, that just seems like a really risky move, like something that was unlikely to pan out. Oh? I couldn't imagine many scenarios where it wouldn't have worked. Really? What if I'd been just like, fuck this, I'm out of here? Oh, come on now. Nobody does that. Nobody would do that. Almost everybody would do that. He had a gun. Wrestling over firearms is quite common. Maybe in feed narratives, but not in real life. You see stories about that kind of thing all the time in the news. We argued over this point for quite a while. It was like arguing with an intelligent child who has no clue about the real world. Her view of real life had been warped by seeing only the sensational parts of it that managed to leak down into the feed realm. She seemed completely unaware of that most basic and fundamental fact of the human life, that most of it is boring, that most of it's just waiting around, that people go through large portions of their lives tired and sleepy and wanting to lie down. I tried to convince her of this, but in her short time in the real world, she had experienced a murder, a drone strike, and a nuclear holocaust, so I wasn't having much success until, lo and behold, she got tired and wanted to lie down. I helped her onto a gurney, and we made plans to head toward Plattsburgh in upstate New York. She said the key to defeating Q was somewhere near there. Of course, she was lying to me, but I didn't realize that at the time. 79th post. How the flesh dances and how the flesh plays. How the flesh dances and how the flesh plays. How the flesh toils and spins through its days. See the flesh happy and strapping and young. See the flesh sagging and dragging and glum. Shh. Hear now the giggling, see shadows grow. Step down the hallway, each door aglow. Watch now the ceiling, sweet cradle rocks. Who made these puppets? Who made this clock? Ancient hand on the cradle, withered lips form a song. Golden wheels spinning backward, withered hand becomes young. The hands can spin, spin then slow, the clock is wound afresh. But is the key turned this time by fingers made of flesh? 80th post. Jerking off until mother opens the door. I'm 24, and it's Friday night in early summer. The sun is settling down into a haze beyond the mountains, and the city's concrete is beginning to cool after a baking day. The signs for all the bars are turning on. The windows of stolid office buildings become a wild collage of reflected neon. Yes, everybody wants to party tonight. Even the Central Insurance Bank is looking festive. Oh, you minx. I've drunk 6 beers. I am right in the zone. Active, playful, charming. Oh, so charming. I'm actually charming myself right now with my internal monologue, reeling off clever little observations about the people who pass on the sidewalk. I can see a glowing doorway in my mind, and all I have to do is walk through it. My phone buzzes in my pocket. Who's calling me now? Maybe it's my usual gang of friends, or the Swedish friends that I drank with until 6 a.m. last weekend, or one of the dozens of girls who are saved in my phone with thoughtful pet names like Brown Hair 2 and Metin Park. But I'm not going to answer my phone. I don't want to make any plans. I am simply going to walk down the street, and something's going to happen, because the door is open. The world awaits. I stand by a food vendor and watch people pass. I smile, I nod, make funny comments. Most people smile and pass right by. Others linger for a while. 2 girls and a guy start talking to me. They're tourists from out of town. What are they looking to do? A nice place or just somewhere cheap? Do they like sake? I know just the place. Sure, no problem. And we're off. Soon we're sitting in a booth. The sake is arriving at regular intervals, and I'm telling crazy stories and snapping off jokes, and I'm listening to them, and they're telling me about themselves, and one of the girls keeps glancing at me when she thinks I'm not looking. And I am 30. I'm in a darkened apartment, hunched over the glow of my laptop screen, jacking off. I finish and go to the bathroom and wash up, and there's that moment, that same moment where I have to look at my blotchy face in the mirror and say, well, not my proudest moment, in my head. The same joke I make to myself every single time. When I'm done, I stand in the doorway of my bathroom and look at the tiny studio apartment. A desk, a laptop, a futon, small window with the curtains closed against the summer glare, crowd of empty bottles on the floor by the door, the stink of old sweat and beer. I whimper a little. The door is closed. The door is closed forever. I'm locked in this apartment, this little box closed off from the world. Now that the jerking off is done, the jitteriness starts to creep back in. Oh, nightmare. I want a drink, but it's only 3 p.m. I've only been awake for half an hour. I should wait until at least 8 before drinking, at least 6. But this is torment. I need some now, or I will have some kind of fucking seizure. Just 2 shots. That's it. And then no drinking until I'm 33. and I'm sitting at the 24-hour club listening to a man talk about a mouse that changed his life. He'd been living out of his car for a month, and it was so full of trash that a mouse started living there too. This was the problem that finally broke him, that finally showed him the absurdity of it all, that finally made him get sober. How do you set mousetraps in a car? It's a pretty good story, but I've heard it before. Stolid Haircut walks into the meeting late again. I call him Stolid Haircut because I don't know his name, but he has a respectable Republican haircut. Silver and gray and sculpted into broad curves that recall the body of a pre-gas crisis American sedan. He wears the uniform of a retiree, bright blue dad jeans with running shoes and white socks, and a plaid shirt buttoned up to the next to top button. Stolid Haircut walks with the wide, clumsy steps of a hesitant toddler. Years of alcoholism have damaged his cerebellum, resulting in an abnormal gait. This and his reddened venous nose make his weakness for alcohol plain for anyone to see. At a glance, you can know his most painful personal shame. His lips are permanently pursed into an embarrassed smile. I watch him ease into the chair and go back to listening about the mouse and find myself looking at him again. Oh, tragic haircut. The haircut calls to me from some golden past. It's the haircut of a man who once was. In days gone by, it was thick and brown and belonged to a man who walked with a purposeful stride, a husband and father, the kind of guy who hoisted his son onto his shoulders and watched passing parades, who played softball and relaxed with a few beers after work, a few whiskeys after that. But he always woke up bright and early the next day, who worked hard, who knew who he was, who knew right from wrong, and knew how the world ought to be. I stared at his soft, shining, embarrassed eyes, and I felt my own filling with tears. How it has all slipped away from him. The young son is grown. The job is done. His wife doesn't talk. Everything that was once strong and sure is now frail and shaky. How many nightmares has this ordinary man seen? I saw so many in just 10 years, and I'm nowhere near the point of an abnormal gait. This man has seen unutterable things. How bewildered was he when it first came for him, that scuttling darkness? Did he think he was going mad? He comes from a generation where this sort of thing isn't discussed. How he must have suffered. Oh, haircut, haircut, haircut. Oh, the bleeding drops of red. I'm staring at him openly. The rest of the meeting, it's not there anymore. A halo of light pours out from around his face, and he becomes a vision. Doves and cherubim swirl around him. Escher staircases extend in every direction. Mandalas expand and overlap and spin, and the door. My God, for a moment, the door is open again. One of the things, the many things that can drive people insane, is the realization that even in a place where one exists and is able to act, you don't need an evil outsider to control, manipulate, or oppress you down to your deepest animal base. Most of us do it to ourselves. So stay scary, my wildlings. Let yourself be to keep yourself free, and make the most of your nights.